Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the work session of Las Cruces City Council. Today is Monday, September 26, 2022. It's approximately 1:05 p.m. Before we begin, if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to have our introduction of our pets of the week, and Jennifer Martinez from our communications office will be introducing them.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am Jennifer Martinez with the city's communications office, and today I would like to introduce you to a new dog and cat. Let's see if I can find them. There we go. I am going to start with Tag. Tag is a 3-year-old. He is a very handsome sweetheart who would love to make your home his home. When he's comfortable around you, he loves to get neck scratches. He comes from a home that had a few cats previously, so he's not opposed to trying a multiple cat home again. Just let him adjust and he should fit right in. And then we have Honey. Honey is also a 3-year-old, a playful sweetheart. This girl is considered a large-sized dog at about 60 pounds. She is wonderful on a leash and doesn't need any special treats for her to feel special around you. All she wants is to get pet all day long. If you have a home that can provide her a way to burn off some energy, please go get her today. You can meet either of these two cuties by getting a hold of the Animal Services Center at 3820018. Make sure you look up their animal number, and for Honey you can see right here 41550, and for Tag it's 52491. If you want to make a match this weekend, there are some opportunities to meet these and other adoptable pets at Tractor Supply from 9 a.m. to noon this Saturday on Picacho. They have an adoption event, or you can head to the booth at the Southern New Mexico State Fair either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Okay, now we're going to go to our jobs of the week, and Giselle Palomares will be, from the Workforce Connection, will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For the jobs of this week, we have a senior wastewater collections worker for City of Las Cruces. That job pays $21.10. It is open until filled. We have a driver and warehouse laborer with Monger Water Service. That job pays $12.50 an hour, closes at October 15th of this year. J29 Enterprises is looking for a mechanic, and that pays $17.21 an hour, and it closes on October 15th. Sales support specialist with Foxworth Galbraith Lumber, that pays $14 an hour to $21 an hour depending on experience, and that one closes December 13th. U.S. Renal Care is looking for a dialysis patient care technician, and that pays $23,000 to $29,000, also depending on experience, closes October 17th. And as always, for any more information regarding the jobs today or anything you need when it comes to workforce, you can always contact the office at 575-524-6250, and it's located on 226 South Alameda Boulevard. And you can always check out our app that is now available on the App Store and Google Play. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Giselle. Okay, we have 3 items on the agenda. The first one is animal companions, relationship between veterinarians, spay, neuter, and emergency services. And I know Don Duncan is here. I had a chance to meet with Don a while back, and this conversation came about because if you have a pet and if there's an emergency, there is no emergency hospital here, the closest one being El Paso. And so what Dawn and her colleagues have come up with was a pretty good idea. So I wanted the council to hear it and see if that's something here that you wanted us to work and try to get this worked out with our various other providers here in the city.
I'm just, do I need to bring my flash drive up? I sent my slides ahead, but I'm not seeing them.
That I couldn't tell you.
Always ready. Okay, all right. Oh, okay, there we go. Great. Thanks, Christine. Appreciate it. Okay, and view slideshow. There we go. So as you can see, this is our mission. Now, before I go on, is there anyone who needs me to read slides? I always want to,
Dawn, I just need you to state your name for the record, please.
Oh, sorry. Dawn Duncan, founder and president of Animal Companions of Las Cruces, District 5. Does anyone need me to read the slides? You can all see fine? Okay, great. So this is our mission, and it has been our mission since we formed 13 months ago as a citizen action group. In January, we became an official nonprofit under the fiscal auspices for 2 years of the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico before we roll out and become our own. And that's my boy Barney, if you're interested. So how did this begin? Well, this dog is my other dog, Furry Fergus, our Beagle Schnauzer mix, both rescues, had cancer surgery in June 2021. We brought him home on Friday, and on Saturday morning he began bleeding out. I immediately called Animal Hospital of Las Cruces because the year before, when Barney, the other dog, had been attacked by 2 pit bulls, I was able to take him there for surgery. That's when I found out that was no longer possible. I got the message that many of us have gotten that he would need to be taken to El Paso. So we quickly drove to El Paso. You can imagine that we were frightened. He was bleeding out, and we were there for hours. Before they even got him back on IVs, I really thought we might lose him. They did save him, and it took a lot of work after. But I got home late that night. We were there all day, and I thought, this is not okay. We are the 2nd largest city in New Mexico. This is not okay. There should be emergency care here. Why isn't there? And so my work began. I'm happy to say, as you can see there, that in the last 13 months as we've worked with our veterinarians in our community, things have improved. Animal Hospital is now open on the weekends from 8 to 4, last intake 3, but they still cannot do surgery. They don't have the staff to do that, okay? And Jornada is open till 7 at night, Monday through Thursday. So those are some improvements. So I was a professor for 29 years. So I don't go into anything without doing the research first. So this data is really relevant for us to understand where we stand, and if it is possible to actually create and sustain 24/7 emergency care here. Now, our approach is to support all of our veterinary services here. Our executive board consists of 5 members who use 4 different services, and we work with all of them, making sure that as we introduce ourselves, as we tell them how we are here to help them, that they understand we approach this positively and collaboratively. Recruitment of more veterinarians to the area is a top priority. It is a nationwide shortage, and if we don't get ahead of the curve, other people are going to be jumping in on this. We've got to solve this for our people, our pets now. That's why a lot of our funding will now go to recruitment and debt relief scholarships. As our young vets leave veterinary school, we know, that undergraduate through graduate, there's a lot of debt. They graduate with an average of $300,000 in debt. That's a lot of debt to be carrying. So if we can sweeten their signing bonuses, because all veterinary jobs come with signing bonuses these days, if we can sweeten that with debt relief scholarships, that makes us certainly more competitive to get some of those people to come here. We also need to deal with these non-compete clauses. Non-compete clauses were created for business and development, scientific development, not for medical care. In 2015, our state did away with non-compete clauses for doctors of humans. It is time to do that for those who care for our pets. Veterinarians have one of the highest suicide rates in the nation. It is a very difficult job. People will yell at vets when they won't yell at their own doctors. Vets have to take care of multiple species, not just one. So if they are unhappy in their job, why would we want them to have to stay? And if there's a non-compete clause, they have to uproot their families and move, usually out of state, right across that border. And we lose them. So we need to deal with that. We have made, I want to go to the goals first. So our goals, there's Fergus looking well again, right? So our goals are really important as far as recruitment, but also getting rid of the non-compete clauses. I think I was off by one slide, sorry guys. And then also the televet. But we're also interested in education. We want to have a conversation with Doña Ana Community College. We have a great pre-vet program at New Mexico State. So why not get a really good vet tech licensing program at Doña Ana? Why not up the ante here and really make us a destination for veterinary care? You may not be aware, but vet tech here have to be registered, but they do not have to be licensed. And some of them may not want to, they may say, we can't afford to go back to school, so let's help. Let us help you with that, right? So our progress, we've been told by a lot of people that we've made amazing progress in this year that we've been going. But to me, it feels slow because I know how critically important this situation is. We have certainly worked the media, and I am very happy to report that as of the last hour, that amount of money that we now have is tripled. We just had an anonymous donor give us $40,000. She believes in what we're doing, and I hope you will believe in that too. So I want to talk about that last thing, because that was a major part of our goals and something we've been successful in already. Vet triage. So we selected Vet Triage as our televet partners after research and after interviews with top candidates. And Vet Triage, we were very impressed with them because they are staffed only by licensed veterinarians. So that's who you talk to. That's who you see on the video call. And these are veterinarians who formed this company because they had the same concern we had, that there is an emergency crisis across this nation. No charge to join them as a vet clinic. No charge for us to join them. So on our we have on our website a landing page to Vet Triage, so you can go in, set up an account for no charge. You will only be charged as a client if you make a call, $50 flat fee, right? So it's a win-win for our veterinarians and for our pet parents. The good news is that 60 to 80% of after-hour calls do not require surgery or IVs like Fergus did, right? It's my dog ate chocolate, I don't know what to do, something like that. They need guidance, but not hands-on care. So now that Vet Triage has been working with us in these months and we're tracking those things, we know that there are fewer people having to make that drive to El Paso, that stressful, expensive, and sometimes not successful drive. Right? So we would really love to see all 8 of our clinics here be a part of Vet Triage and have it expand in southern New Mexico. It will be a huge help to all of the veterinary services. If you have a pet, I encourage you to go on our landing page for them, get signed up, because you don't want to be doing that when the emergency arrives, right? You want to have something in place. So how do we pursue this? Well, veterinary partnership. And here I want to explain something very carefully. Our original idea was a consortium. This is what I call the Fargo model. Consortiums work across this nation. In fact, at our fundraiser event just the other night, a retired vet who went to pre-vet school here, practiced in California and has returned, said she was shocked that we don't have the kind of veterinary community right now that supports a consortium. That's something we can tackle, okay? So I found out after meeting with my vet back in Fargo, I moved here from Fargo-Moorhead, it's a university town. In 2005, he started the Red River Emergency Hospital up there. And in 2005, Fargo-Moorhead looked almost exactly, demographically, like Las Cruces, Mesilla. Almost exactly. Same numbers, university town. all of that, except it has snow. So it was very, very similar. And what they did was all the vets put in some money, they took out a loan, and in 5 years, and they set up their own hospital, right? One that's a standalone. And in 5 years, they had cleared the loan and were in profit and have built an extraordinary emergency hospital now staffed by full-time emergency doctors. And they share in those profits. And I thought, why not? And then I found out about the do not compete clauses. They can't work outside of their own clinics. And there is, sadly, a lack of collaboration across the vet community. It makes no sense in some ways. I don't understand the history, but let's get past the history of it. Because remember those numbers back there, that we have about 24,000 pets here? In just Las Cruces, if you don't even count Mesilla? There are 15 vets here. There's more than enough work to go around. So we should be working collaboratively. So our next idea was, okay, well, we'll start the hospital. And then we found out through research how much that would cost. And went, well, unless I win the lottery, that will not be happening. Or unless you know somebody with deeper pockets even than that anonymous donor, right? Because we're talking millions. So partnership options. So we took it to our vets. Carol Calista stepped up and said, I've been wanting to do this. I need help to do this. I want to expand to 24/7. She's hoping this fall to get to 7 a.m. to midnight. She's got some new hires. But we all know, if you know anything about Carol Calista, and she's not my vet, so we work with everybody, right? Carol has wanted to do this for a number of years. So the question now is, can we make it happen? And if Animal Hospital wants to do it, can we make that happen? If Jornada wants to do it, can we make that happen? We will work with all of them. I still would like to come back to that consortium idea, though. So, top priority, recruit veterinarians to come here. Now, you might think, well, what can a nonprofit do? Well, all the veterinary clinics are trying to recruit, but if they're putting in about 70 hours a week now anyway, and I'm not kidding, how do they have time to actually really get out there and recruit? The two that are owned by corporations, those corporations recruit for all their clinics. So they're doing a lot of general recruiting. So we went to work. We've created a really, really vibrant brochure. We've done the research to find every vet school in the nation, when their job fairs are, who to contact, and we're going to get our material out there. Some of those are in person. Many of them have remained virtual. So that's a cost-effective thing, right? So we get into those job fairs, and we sell Las Cruces. I can tell you, I grew up in the Southwest, inner city Dallas. I've wanted to live in New Mexico since I was 17. I finally made it. If they'd had a job opening when I finished my PhD, I'd have been here then. But I'm in love with this place, and I want to make a positive difference. And this is something I can do, my group can do. So let's show them why this place is fabulous. A lot of people know nothing about Las Cruces. They may know Santa Fe, Taos, Albuquerque, right? Las Cruces, I think, has it all. University town, the arts, at the border, which I believe is kind of cool myself, desert and mountains. And we can afford to live here. So one of the things I learned as a professor when I was talking to my students about their first jobs, don't just look at the paycheck. You have to know what the tax base is. You have to know if you can afford the cost of living. Because if somebody in San Francisco or New York City offers you a big paycheck and you go there, guess how you're going to be living. So let's show them the whole picture. And most of these people are outdoors people. Get them here and let them know there's this vibrant community that supports them. Of course, we are accepting donations all the time, so individually, feel free to go to our website and donate. So what are ways you can help our city council, our city leaders? This one, I finally realized, was a biggie, this top one. We have held a couple of webinars for vets. And I would say that, you know, those 4 veterinary clinics that I mentioned, they were very excited, and all but 2 have participated. But we can't get them all in the same room at the same time. I think you could. I think if you invited them to a meeting of veterinarians to solve this crisis, and we could pitch the consortium idea, we could make it work, even right now with non-compete clauses, even when we can't get rid of them, because Vet Triage can set up a phone bank that sends you to the right clinic on the right day, night, weekend, with the right person. There's no reason that can't be done. You can help make that happen. You could also provide incentives. I don't know how it works, how you do the money. That's you guys, right? But if we could provide incentives to our clinics here to help them stay open longer by helping them hire, just as we're going to sweeten that deal with those scholarship debt relief, then I think that would go a long way towards helping as well. But there might also be government programs and grants you know about that I don't know about or that we haven't found, and we can work those. I am very happy to say that our mayor and Mayor Nora and Messia have both been very supportive. And the county commissioners, when I spoke before them, also very supportive. Some of our state legislators are getting very interested in the possibility of working on the non-compete clause. So if you think of ways that we can work collaboratively, I only work from a position of positivity and collaboration, but I'm also highly determined, and we are going to get this done. So I'm going to just say to you, we can make this happen. There's no reason we can't. That billboard that says the emergency hospital and why it is still open has been wrong since 2018, people. I don't know who's paying for that, but they really need to take it down because it confuses people. The need is great. And if we haven't learned this by now, we should have learned it during COVID, during the pandemic that is or isn't over, and all that might come. Animals make us better human beings. Pets improve our quality of life. So this isn't just about pet owners. It's about our whole city, our region. And we matter, not just the north. So I hope you will work with me, and I'm happy to take any questions or suggestions that you have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dawn. That was an excellent presentation. I couldn't remember exactly what your previous occupation was when you retired here, but when you said college professor, it pretty much made sense why you can deliver so well, how you can speak so well, and you probably did the PowerPoint yourself. So
yes, I did. Thank you.
Councilor Graham, another PhD right here.
I'm sorry, who did you say?
Oh, that's me.
No, Councilor Graham.
That's why you were smiling at me.
Thank you, Mayor. And at the top, I just absolutely want to express my support for hearing more about this. This is something that I would care about even if I hadn't been in the exact experience that you were describing. A couple of years ago, we had to do the back-to-back trips to El Paso within a week, one for a really catastrophic diagnosis, and then the next to say goodbye. And as difficult as that was, my husband and I were at least in the privilege of the position to being able to afford it.
That's right.
To having transportation, to be able to drop everything to go down there. And I think as hard as losing our boy was, what was worse was seeing people not having that option in the waiting room, because we were there for hours, just like you pointed out, and I saw so many people come in, hear the price to even get back through those doors, and that's nothing against the emergency services. I understand that they have to cover their costs, but we saw so many people have to leave again, or having frantic phone calls, or trying to get the money together. I mean, and that's a whole other side of it. So just speaking as an elected, speaking as somebody who cares about the whole city, and speaking as someone who has personally been through this heartbreak, I'm going to give you my card and let me know how I can help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
And I will say, before April Anaya stepped down, she and I were working together to allow for that funding to include vet triage, because it's much more affordable than for some people needing to make that trip, right? Which they can't make. So I'll walk over and get your card from you in just a second. Okay.
So the purpose of me asking Dawn to present this presentation was a couple of reasons. One, to let, obviously, you all know what's being worked on. And two, to explain that there is a network out there that's available for those who may be in need in the interim. And it's possible that maybe in the near future, depending on the different fundings and such, you know, we're building our new animal services facility, which is also leaving our former one as well. And I don't know, I mean, I know there's some loose ideas as to what's going to happen with that. But if we were to utilize a small portion of that, and if we would somehow receive some type of funding from the state legislature, there could be a way that, because right now there's a program that the state has, that if you are willing to do so much service back to the state, I believe that they can help with tuition.
That's right.
And if there's a way that we could work that, because veterinarians are high in demand, and if there was a way that we could work that the city could be a catalyst to allow one or two veterinarians that after they graduate, they come here and they do their 4 years or 6 years, whatever the state says that they need to do to basically get that type of tuition reimbursement, or however they work it. I think if we can slowly build to that level, I don't know if it can be done very quickly. You know, in all fairness, both city and state and federal government moves a little bit slow, and there's a reason for that. But I just wanted to tell you thanks, publicly thank you for what you're doing and your team, as well as to let the public know that there is some little alternative. And then in the interim, if we can move, and if you want, I know we can try to bring the other parties that you talked about together so we can have a little bit more thorough discussion and maybe a more type of plan, to futuristic plan that figures out how can we do this in a certain time period.
And sustain it, yeah.
And sustain, sure.
And I believe that is a 3-year commitment. I did speak with Dr. Wenzel, who is he works with New Mexico State's pre-vet program. Former vet, his son is the vet now out in Deming. And we talked about, right now, Texas Tech's veterinary school allows for 10% of the incoming to be from out of state, and they're all coming from New Mexico State right now, every one of them. And so we want to get into that program, get over there, talk with them. And we also have an idea of perhaps doing, so if you set up an internship for a student, it's a lot of work for the vet clinic on this end. They have to do an awful lot of work to be vetted themselves to be able to do that, right? But if they're 2-week internships, like working 2-week internships, then they don't have to go through all that. And so we talked about what would be the possibility of animal companions. We have over 80 volunteers. So what would be the possibility of us providing, among our volunteers, free housing for those 2 weeks, right? Because they can't afford it, the students can't afford it, and let them experience the different vet clinics. There might be 1 or 2 days at different ones, and entice them, host them, entice them, make them want to come back here. So, a lot of this is not just passion, it's having the right words and marketing who we are in the right way. But we also have to be honest and true to that. We have to, if we're going to say we're going to support them, we have to find ways to do it. So I'm here, and any other ideas you have, Mayor, I'm very open to them. And I work. I am a worker.
Love
so,
it.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. I don't procrastinate.
Mayor Pro Tem has a question or a comment.
Thank
Yes.
you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Duncan, for your presentation. Your excitement and passion, it just shows, and it's really exciting. I sit on the Animal Services Board, and we've been working on this issue for not the hospital piece, but the veterinarian piece, because we've had one open
For a year.
for a few years now.
Yeah.
And have done various things to try to engage people to come to our city. But how are you working with the director of the Animal
Clint?
Animal Services Center, and what kind of conversations moving forward? Because I think that's critical.
Yes.
Because we're doing sort of some of that work, and and I love, you're speaking my language, coordination, collaboration, communication,
Right.
the 3 C's. So I want to make sure that those of us that sit on the board are speaking to him and making sure that he's aware and working in tandem with you.
Yeah, Clint is very aware. We met for the first time at Community Foundation. I was leading a community conversation among animal welfare people, which wasn't what they thought was going to happen that day, so that was interesting. But since then, we had a really good meeting, and Commissioner Ellens was part of that as well. Jerry Wheeler, who's here today, she had invited me to a meeting with them last week that I couldn't make. But we're well aware of one another, and he actually gave us the information on that job opening when we went to. We've already had a volunteer go to Cornell. She was going out there anyway, and she's an alum, and took it to the vet school. But there's a difference between dropping off information and really recruiting.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so I think Clint is very in favor of our help and very willing to work with us. And I know, since moving here 3 years ago, 2.5 of which were kind of closed, I hear all kinds of things about animal services, about the different animal welfare, about the different vet, and I just tune that out. And I listen so what are we going to do that's positive?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do that's work? What are we going to do that's, going to make a difference? And I'm very happy the way he's working with me. And so, yeah. And if that group wants me to come in and meet with them and not even just present, but work, right?
Sure.
Let's get a plan. Let's do the stuff. Let's do it. Do it now.
So we had a task force specific to the updating policies, the ordinances and such, and it's sort of gone on hiatus, and maybe it needs to be resurrected to sort of help navigate that. I'm not sure, but we have several times pre-COVID, during COVID, sent letters to our veterinarians asking for that help, because we need so much to happen in the center related to spay and neuter and all those things, and we're just not getting the sort of responses I think that we need. I'm not trying to be critical, I just know everybody is super busy.
They're maxed.
And they're maxed out.
Yeah.
And we're giving incentives. We really want to recruit people. We're talking about internships, apprenticeships, those things. And so I just don't want us to get sideways with each other.
No.
That we need to be like this.
That's right.
For the common good.
And I will be clear about one thing with the veterinary services that we all need to be aware of. I think Nextdoor is one of the worst social media for complaints, honestly, but I have to be on there. They can't do any more. What they need is more people to do. And so they can't. I mean, they just cannot. So we've got to get more people here. We
and
too
frankly,
founded
the center can't either. I mean,
Right.
we're overloaded. The
No, you
population
can't.
is over.
Yeah. So
we do what we can.
Absolutely.
They do what they can.
Absolutely. So it is really, the recruitment thing is crucial.
Yes.
Crucial. And I think because they fear, whether they're getting it from you or from me or somebody else, that they're going to be asked to do more, they don't respond or show, which is why I think getting them all in the same room at the same time could be incredibly helpful.
Well, we've tried.
To tackling
We've tried
this.
to get meetings together with them, and it
But
hasn't been
has the
as
whole city
successful.
council said the city council is going to host a meeting?
Yeah, I don't know that we can, but I'm supportive,
Okay.
help in any way that I can. Maybe Councillor Cran, we might have a presentation specific to the to our meeting, our animal
other
services meeting, and that you all at the executive level determine what the agenda looks like. That might be something.
Yep. The only other method I know of, Mayor Pro Tem, is for, if each of you have different vets, work your own vet, talk to your own vet, and tell them, we're not, at least we aren't here to ask for more, we are here to provide something. Yeah, to help.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. And then lastly, I'll talk about, we just had a big conversation, and we'll continue this conversation about having the 1/12 sort of budget that we need to have as a surplus. And we don't have that, and we're struggling. We're struggling as a center, and we think it's fiscally responsible to do so. So we'll continue to have those conversations. It's very clear what the old center is going to, once we get into the new center, what the old center's role is going to be specific for our community.
Oh, good.
It's not, there's no loose, it has been very clear what we want to do there.
Yep.
But we can't do it without the personnel, and
Right.
and that's really what's keeping us
Right.
from
Right.
moving forward. And
Right.
so
Anything you can give us beyond what Clint has already given us for us to help you, we'll take it.
But I love it. I mean, it's a good time to go and speak to legislature about capital outlay and the things that that vision you have, and whatever I can do to help, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very
Mayor.
much, all of you. Thanks for your time and your attention and for all the work you do. So,
I have one question. So when you said you spoke to Texas Tech, was that directly in Lubbock, or does El Paso have some type of a little?
that's the Lubbock one.
Okay.
The vet school's in Lubbock.
Okay, just curious.
It's just over the border and up, so,
Yeah, okay. All right, well, just stay in touch, and then we'll see how we can continue to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you again. We appreciate it. Okay, next item is going to be item 3.2, prisoner care. Director Brian Baker from Doña Ana County Detention Center will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. Let me see if I can figure out how to work this. Since I got to watch before me, maybe I can figure it out. Okay, my name's Brian Baker. I'm the director of the Doña Ana County Detention Center. I was asked to come out and give a basic overview of the detention center, a couple of things. Our leadership at the detention center consists of myself, the director. I basically plan the overall scope of the facility and all the functions of it. I have 3 captains, currently only 2, but I will have 3 captains coming up. They do specific divisions. One's over operations, one over administrative services and compliance, and the other one would be over support services that covers things like booking, juvenile, and stuff like that. I've got 21 lieutenants. They cover smaller areas. Some of them are shift commanders. I have generally between 2 or 3 per shift that are there 24 hours a day. They respond to big incidents. They make sure we're in compliance with state requirements, federal guidelines, and stuff like that. Other ones are over specific units like compliance, safety, training, policies. I have one over the juvenile facility. I also have 24 sergeants. They're kind of the first level supervisor there over small groups of people in the facility at all times. In addition to that, I have about 176 officers that staff the facility 24 hours a day. The facility was built in 1995. Its current capacity is 877, which looks good on paper, but with COVID, the real number is probably closer to 600, 620, because I still have to operate in a full-bore COVID type setup because the CDC and the New Mexico Department of Health have not decided that in corrections and detention that COVID has gone the way it has in the community. We're still operating just as if it was kind of middle of the pandemic. So we still have to have people come in, they still get evaluated for COVID, they still go through quarantine just like everything else. I have 8 separate housing units. They have between 2 and 6 day rooms. Each of the day rooms consists of either 1 to 8-man cells, and we assign people to those areas according to their specific risk factors. We also have the Juvenile Detention Center that was built in 2001. It has 5 day rooms, each approximately able to house 10 individuals. And same thing as the adult facility, we base their housing based off of their various specific criteria. And in all the areas, it's temperature controlled and with high security features so that we can hopefully not have as much damage as possible, even though they still are able to occasionally do damage there. Our medical and mental health services are provided by Yes Care, that was formerly Horizon Medical Services. They provide full-service medical, mental health treatment. We have a full-time psychiatrist on staff, certified nurse practitioners in both medical and mental health, as well as a number of nurses, therapists, counselors, and generally they're seeing the detainees almost every day from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 or so at night. We also offer commissary services, programs such as NA, AA, sometimes GED courses and stuff like that. Currently, they're on hiatus because of COVID. We're looking forward to the time that we don't have to be under such COVID strict protocols, because it's a problem bringing in volunteers from the outside, not knowing anything about their vaccination status or their current testing status. So in order to eliminate some of the risks to the detainees, they're not allowed in. Religious providers are able to come in and visit during the attorney booths when they're not filled up with attorneys visiting their clients. Visitation, as part of COVID, when we had to basically kill off visitation for a short period of time, we worked with our visitation provider to get free video visits. Before we offered free video visits, but it was a paid only service. And then if you wanted a free visit, you'd have to come into the facility. Well, that wasn't a solution for us, and it wasn't exactly something we wanted to be for the community to say, hey, you just can't visit anybody until the pandemic's over. So we worked with them, and they are now permanently able to get a free video visit per week and unlimited paid visits. So now if somebody wants to see their loved ones 15 times a week, they can see their one free, and they can schedule the remainder on a as needed basis. So that goes through the tablets in the housing units, and we're still not able to do on-site visitation because of COVID. It's still through the video, but it's on-site, and they don't have to have a smartphone or a computer, but all of it's available through smartphones or computers. Anybody who has a video-operated device, even a tablet, can register and get those visits. For intake, it's kind of very basic. The police officers bring in the arrestees, and from there, we basically look at the paperwork, make sure they're suitable for and legally committed to our facility. We do a PAT search. Our medical staff does a quick medical clearance to make sure there's nothing pressing that would require a trip to the ER. Once that's done, they start doing the data entry for entering them into our computer. We do fingerprints. We have a X-ray body scanner, much like you see at the airports, to control contraband that comes in. We also do an interview. We basically get all their demographic information, their next of kin, and any employment information that we need. We make sure we process and store their property and their money that they came in with. They're changed out into a facility uniform, and they are eventually housed in a booking housing unit until they're classified. At that point, when classification gets to them, they review their whole past history and determine what level of risk they are, because we don't want to be mixing high-risk detainees with low-risk detainees, because you don't want somebody who's only ever been arrested on a failure to pay warrant in with somebody with a violent history. So we try to avoid that at all possible. And so basically the main impacts on our intake procedures is the COVID initial screening takes place right when they arrive in the facility. And then once they arrive, we have to actually use a lot more space, because it's not just good enough to house them based on their charge and comportment. We also have to split that up by day of arrival, so that way, if you arrived on a Monday, you're not mixed in with somebody who arrived on a Friday, because that just extends everybody's quarantine. And the length of quarantine has been a big sore subject for a lot of people, because they don't get access to the full services. At this point, after 10 days, they are able to be moved to general population as long as they have a negative COVID antigen test and they don't have any existing COVID exposure risk. So that's the basic rundown. Most of what I have is anything you guys have questions about it, because there's too much to cover.
Well, thank you, Director Baker. We appreciate you coming here. I think it's fair to say that a lot of times members of our, especially new members of council and old and current and former ones or current ones may not know the whole process exactly, how it works and who takes care of our prisoners of City of Las Cruces. Just one thing before I turn it over to council is it used to be, if there was a city resident that was held in your detention center, the first 48 hours were or not free, but was gratis, and then after that, the clock started kicking, and then we had to pay. What can you tell us the process now?
It is governed by contract. If it is somebody who is arrested on a municipal charge, and that's the only thing outstanding, then the billing starts, I believe, after the first full day. Not 100% sure. If they are arrested on a magistrate court case, even though it's a City of Las Cruces and a City of Las Cruces resident, you guys are not billed. So I don't necessarily know what the past practice was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because that was before my time. But that's the current process. So bulk of individuals that come in usually come in with magistrate court or district court charges. Only a very small subset of individuals come in on just City of Las Cruces charges.
I wonder why. No, I know why, and I'm just kidding. Councilor Bencomo and Councilor Abeta.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you. Remind me your name again. I'm sorry.
Brian Baker.
Do you have a title?
Director.
Director Baker. Okay. I like to call people by the titles they've earned.
I answered to most things.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I had been asking for this presentation for quite some time. It's my third year on the council, and given that, we have a pretty significant budget item with the county, it's obviously run by the county, but the city has a stake in it as well, right? I wanted to better understand some of these questions. I was hoping that part of this presentation would include a presentation by Corizon, given that they're the health providers currently there, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's no longer Corizon, it's now Yes Care. So the prior health service administrator, he has been promoted, so he's like a regional vice president, and we have a new HSA, that's Heather Brella.
Is Yes Care?
That is the new company. I don't exactly know what went on. It's a private company, so one private holder switched to another holder, and now they have a different name and a different.
So it's branding. It's
yes,
not.
It's more branding. In terms of the performance and the services they provide, it's virtually the same.
Okay, that's interesting. And the reason I say that is because I think Corizon Health has a pretty substantial. Bad track record for prisoner care across the country?
I don't know. I've heard that across the nation, but in terms of our facility, they've been nothing but great. I mean, they provide probably some of the best medical and mental health services in our area because they're on board, they're 24/7. The detainees don't have to worry about whether they can afford it. There's not a, if you're a private citizen and you need to go see a psychiatrist on the outside, you call up a psychiatrist and say, I really need to get seen. They're like, okay, we have an opening in January. That's not going to happen at the detention center. If you're in crisis, you're going to get seen probably within 24, 48 hours at the maximum. If it's a routine follow-up, it may be 2 weeks. So they get much better responsive services at the detention center than they could ever get in the community.
Yes, that's good to hear. I also, we often talk about mental health on this dais, and, I still think it's pretty shameful, right, that the Doña Ana County Jail is the biggest provider of mental health services in the county. That is not okay. I will say, though, that I think my concern stemmed from a couple of stories in the news in the last year or two, and I know you can't talk about lawsuits, but I know that there are a couple of lawsuits against the jail and Corizon that have allegations of serious complaints on people's health, right? People who've been denied care that has been prolonged, and so people ended up dying. And so I know those things are out there, right, and do exist here in our community. I have my concerns about private facilities as care providers in general. But I did want to ask you about, and you mentioned some of it, right now we're seeing a lot of issues with folks in the community who may have committed crimes, but are also experiencing severe mental health illness and or substance abuse. I'm curious, once you have someone in, what the treatment is for folks like that. Are you providing treatment for substance abuse? And then you said you have one psychiatrist in the facility. I'm just curious about what kind of support you provide for people specifically suffering from either or both of those.
Well, right now, if you're currently on medication-assisted treatment for opiate abuse disorder, we'll continue on that protocol. We are working to expand that to induction so that we can actually start people who come in with an existing history of abuse and start them on MAT therapy, because while we have them, if we can get them started on it, then it will have a higher likelihood of being able to be continued in the community. We have a lot of community support for that with a lot of the different providers. It's just a matter of getting it started. I mean, it's quite costly, so we're working on how to phase it in and to get it built up to where we can actually get it running and stable. In terms of mental health, I mean, we have a psychiatrist, mental health practitioners, counselors, and therapists. I mean, they triage them when they come in. If they report any kind of issues, they are triaged as to whether they're an emergent case, just need a routine follow-up or whatever. A lot of the names that you see in the media when they are reported that this person's a problem in the community because they have a mental health issue, we're able to get them in, we get them stabilized. The problem we have is they get released by the courts and they get put back out into the community. The community resources are not there. We give them, we let them go. They have a supply of medication that they're given when they leave. When that elapses and they can't get into a mental health provider for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, who's writing them the script? Even if you can get a med compliant on the outside when no one's handing them their meds like we do 3 times a day, they can't get it filled.
Yeah.
So it's the community that needs to have much more support to be able to release it. Right now, we're working well with the Crisis Triage Center. A lot of those individuals we release, we try to get them to go into the Crisis Triage Center to be connected to community resources to hopefully prevent a lot of that falling through the cracks. Only some individuals take advantage of it. I mean, they see the outside and they're like, I'm done with this. I'm tired of anybody telling me what I need to do, and they go on their way. So if we can build up community resources, I think we'll have a much better success rate than we have currently.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Thank you for making that comment. I was going to ask you about the triage center as well. Do you keep data on about how many people utilize the triage center as soon as they're released?
That is not done through the detention center. That's through
Triage
Health
center.
and Human Services with the county. So they could probably get you the more specific data. Our role is only we try to help facilitate people who need some type of service upon release. We try to get them connected with that.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have a third-party provider that does the phone calls, that provides the phone or the visitation phone calls?
Yeah, that's through GTL.
Okay. Actually, those are all my questions. Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to know, right, circle back on that point around community services and the fact that, everyone can go to jail if they commit a crime, but if at the end of the day they get released and they don't have community services or community support, we're going to be stuck in the same situation, right? And so I feel like that's actually pretty relevant to the kind of conversations we've been having here. So thank you. I appreciate you coming to present today.
No problem.
Thank you, Councilman Como. I'll circle back to that after Councilor Beta has some comments.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Baker. I have just one quick comment or question about, on the county website, it does have reports, quarterly reports for restrictive housing. As I was just trying to do research before this, they seem to end in 2021 with just one report in January, and there isn't any sort of follow-up, so I was curious about that.
They will be uploaded. We try to get them frequently, but it requires us getting them together and getting them over to the IT to get them uploaded. In general, we don't do restrictive housing. It kind of goes against my personal philosophy and actually the philosophy of my captains. We don't think that we should be confining people to their cells for extended period of times. The law is very relaxed as far as I'm concerned. As long as you're out of your cell with, sustained meaningful human contact for more than 2 hours, you don't fall into restrictive housing. So I mean, that's a really low bar to not have anybody. So if you're reporting a whole bunch of people, you're basically saying these individuals never come out of their cell and they never talk to anybody. That goes against most of our philosophy. So we generally don't have that happen. We did have a couple instances at the start of the COVID pandemic, because it was like, well, we can't get this person out. They're COVID positive. They're in isolation. What do we do? So we had to figure out ways to get them the interaction that they needed so they didn't decompensate or anything like that, and we were able to work through that. So for the most part, generally, we don't have anybody that falls into the state criteria for restrictive housing.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear about your philosophy on that. I think I was just curious about that transparency process, and if that was something that was getting held up on the IT side then for?
Yeah, I got to follow up with my staff because we've just been busy because we're a little bit short-staffed. So I got to make sure that that information got over to IT so it can get uploaded to our website. We just recently went through a website redesign, so I'll figure it out and I'll get it up there within a day or two.
Fantastic. Thank you. Then thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Baker. I have just a couple questions. So I think the way I understood the crisis triage, I think there was a lot of people who were thinking that if there was a way to not put people in the detention center that needed mental health services, crisis triage was the answer, because there's only so many limited funds that was used, the Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And so, and I have to give really a lot of credit to Chief Dominguez and his department, because I think the majority of law enforcement that uses crisis triage, a county facility, is the city. And I call on my colleagues to ask Sheriff Stewart to really, because I don't think they use them. And that would just help reduce the number of people that could use some type of services. I mean, some is better than nothing. And I think that, and then that also helps reduce the population there in the detention center. But I just wanted to just point that out, that I was the understanding is how they help fund the crisis triage. And the second thing is, and I'm not advocating this, I'm just going to tell you, I just received just one email, and it was pertaining to the fact that apparently, and this is credit to you and your team, I guess her son had been in the detention center. He was a substance abuse person, and actually got pretty good care there. And then lately, when he got picked up, they just let him go, and he's on the streets, and she's just frantic. I just wanted to let you know that normally you would have someone criticizing the detention center, but here's someone who said that she wished that her son had been put back into the detention center, because at least she knew where he was. She knew he was getting fed, whether he ate or not, and she knew he was getting some medical attention. So I just wanted to let you know about that.
Yeah, hopefully at some point we can get the community resources built up enough that that's not the primary focus. Or if we can get him here, then we know he's taken care of. If we can get a good place that they can go locally without going through the red tape of an involuntary commit, because that's a big deal. You're taking away somebody's right to bear arms and stuff like that. So that's a real dodgy thing to do when you're going to go that route to get them forced into care. It'd be nice if we had something local, and then we could eliminate the stigma of mental health issues. If we can just get rid of that and realize that that's just a medical condition like diabetes, high blood pressure, a lot of people have the same issues.
I think she made it sound like she's, for the last 15 years, had been working, trying to get him help, and he just refused. I mean, you can only do so much, but she did say that the time that he spent there in your facility was good. So.
I appreciate it.
Councilor Brinkholm.
Just had one more question. On the contract with Corizon or Yes Care, is that approved? Does it get evaluated on a certain yearly basis?
Every year.
Every year by the county commission?
The contract is approved for whatever duration, 7-8 years, and then every year it's renewed. We do the evaluation of it, and then it gets approved by the county manager. The original contract goes in front of the BOCC, but...
Okay. The evaluation is done, when you say we, do you mean
the
like
detention center staff, yes.
Your team? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Oh, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm just curious. What is the longest time that you know of that people are detained there? I mean, does
the average length of stay, which is really misleading, it's usually around 20, no more than 30 days, because we have so many people come in and they're out within a day or two. They get seen by a judge, they get released. During my time at the facility, I've seen people there as long as 7 years.
And most of them are awaiting trial or legal?
Most of them are, the ones that are there the longest are usually there facing murder trials or really complex criminal sexual penetration, usually with minors. And so there's a lot of continuances, both from the state initially, and then usually it's the defense attorneys that request a lot of continuances.
Great, that's what I thought. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, well, again, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming here and explaining to us how the detention center works, and keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, the last item is 3.3, the GEO bond quarterly update. And looks like Tony Trevino is from Public Works, and unidentified gentleman that I don't remember his name, so.
Good afternoon, Mayor. To my left is Mr. Kyle Arend. He's the new engineering administrator for the Public Works Department, so he will be joining me today.
Kyle, what was the last name?
Arend.
Yeah, you have to talk it up.
It's Kyle Arend. Arend.
How do you spell it?
Yeah.
A-R-E-N-D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just passed it on to him because I always mess it up. All right. Okay. So again, welcome everybody. Tony Trevino, Deputy Director of Public Works. For the record, today we're going to be going over the quarterly update for the GEO Bond 2018 projects, not to be confused with the upcoming 2022 projects. Question one, has Unidad Park? Here's to the right is some photos what they have of the restored Twin Towers, the new bathroom that was added to it with the showers, and that kind of funky circle thing with a little bit of concrete will be the splash pad that's under construction right now. Up to date, we are 81% complete, and we have the revised completion date due to some of the materials coming in is October 10th, 2022. Just a few notes below it, the restroom structure is complete. The roof partitions, doors, and floor of the restroom are all completed. The splash pad and the pump house is what we're currently working on. When we get to the funding kind of graph in the back, you'll see there's about an 18 to 20% kind of gap before we finish paying off the funds where that's all going to go to. And the landscaping is 75% complete. After talking with communications, we are planning a ribbon cutting for late October. So that is on the schedule, and you all will hear some more about that as we move forward. Here is the chart up on top with the graph of the percent complete billings to the time. You can see we're about 80% to 88.5% on time to billings. Then again on the right shows that 20% that I was talking about for the cost of the splash pad and the pump house to get that 80% to 100. The contract amount was $1.86 million, and to date we're at $1.5 million spent. You can see on the contract up here, up on top, you can see on the time frame there's a delay. There's a construction we had attended in July of this year, but just due to the materials, you can see that little block of delay that will be done in October. So just wanted to call that out. The next one, the exciting one, is East Mesa Public Rec Complex. 37% complete on this one. We're still have a completed estimated date of February 6, 2023. The earthwork is 98% complete. The pickleball court slabs are ongoing. Utility line installation is wrapping up, and the plumbing for the restroom is being completed now, which you can see in that picture on the left or the other two pictures. Here is the kind of billings to time. You can see the billings is kind of low to the time. However, right now it's just been more of a dirt work. It's been kind of more of a huge sandbox moving dirt around. So now once you start getting started, we'll start pouring some concrete, doing some of the infrastructure to get those billings caught up. And that will be shown on the right side also of that graph. The contract amount is for $6 million, and the total spent is $2.2 million. Before I move on, just want to mention that we did get that $3 million of ARPA funding. That is going to be toward the landscaping, which has kind of blown my mind of how much landscaping has gone up the past couple months. What was supposed to be about a $3 million job now got a bid for $4.5–5 million. So staff has took a step back and realized that it'd be in the city's best interest to re-bid the landscape and get some more contractors to bid on that cost, so we can see if we can get that lowered and be more in the favor of the city for this, and still have the intent of finishing in the spring of 2023. So that is where we're moving on as a group. The dog parks, 82% complete. Now remember, these are part of the Animal Service Center project, the building, so the estimated completion date is February 12/8/22. That's the same completion date as the Animal Service Center. We are talking, and we are seeing with Parks and Rec if some of these can be opened ahead of time, since they are being complete. The Rinconada Dog Park, which is right behind the facility, the restroom plumbing roughing is complete, where we were able to add the restroom with the ARPA funding, and the chain link fencing is still ongoing. The Burn Lake Dog Park, shade structures, park benches, it's all installed, and I believe this week they are having the final walkthrough. So that might be one of the first ones that we're going to try and open up before the December date as we work with Parks and Rec. Here's the Animal Service Center. Again, same percent completion is 82%, December 8th. The site concrete is 95% done. The EIFS of all buildings is 95% done. That is the exterior kind of sheathing, the stucco, the insulation, all that good stuff. The drywall inside the building is complete. Painting is 70% complete. The mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, about 98% complete. And the solar PVA steel structure is complete in the back. Landscaping and irrigation is ongoing. Yeah, so that revised completion date is of 12/8/2022. So we can, some of the materials, a lot of the hardware is what's being delayed right now for the interior. Here are the same graphs as shown before. The buildings is at 81% and time is at 82%. So we can see those are pretty close. As you go to the right side where we have time complete and billings, we will be catching up here as we finish up these dog pods and get that solar stuff installed. So with the finishing touches of the building, that will be caught up by December. And this one, Fire Station 3, I have great news that we have received the access control. It is getting installed. They're doing some final adjustments, and this one will be able to be closed out. They have been occupying it since January, but just waiting on some access equipment, we haven't been able to fully close it out. With that, we're also getting the decommissioning and the commissioning of the LEED certified structure. So that report now is being completed, so we can get that LEED certification. And there's a few pictures that we've all seen, and the access control being installed on the very right side. So here, pretty much done on the 99% on the buildings on the left side to the 96 on time. Again, the actual revised contract amount was 5.1. To date, we spent the 5.078, and we'll be able to finalize that out here very shortly and get that closed out. The walking, jogging, and biking trails, 99% complete. The Mesilla Drain, our Mijo Drain Trail, those are all complete. The Las Cruces Drain Trail, there's some final walkthrough items that are being addressed. They have been completed. However, with some of the monies that were left over in the project for this question, because the funding from this question can only be used in this question. I said question a lot. The additional money, Parks and Rec, we went and ordered some additional benches, trash waste stations, pet waste stations, and waste baskets. So as you can see, even for some of that material, we're delayed till December 2022 just to get that new equipment in. So that'll allow us to kind of better fit these trails, get more equipped, but they'll still be done and completed before the December 31st deadline for the GEO bonds. So here is the same graphs, 99% to the 88%, 80% for the billings to time. That will be closing out here soon. The contract amount of the 2.49 to 2.45 that we spent to date. The graph on the right, we've tied up, met up very nicely, and awaiting that delivery of that equipment so it can be installed and close it out by December. Here is the overall budget that we share that kind of shows some of the additional funds we put in there, how it's broken down from all our fees. So this is similar that you see every update from us. And here's a program schedule where on the very right, you can just see at the end of 2022, December 2022, the only project going to exceed that is the East Mesa Rec Complex. However, that is going to be involving the ARPA funding only, not the GEO bond funding. So all GO bond funds will be spent before December 31st as required. And with that, here's the overall progress. 83.46 of billings compared to the 91.64 time, but within the next couple of weeks of the East Mesa Sports Complex and the splash pad and pump house of Unidad, that'll jump us up drastically to tie into that graph and meet up. Again, you can see the numbers. Our original bond amount was 35.6 million, and so far we've spent 30.07. And with that, any questions?
Very good, Tony. Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much, Mr. Trevino. Can you go back to page, well, let's see, maybe, so, well, my question is, 14, try 14. Yeah, you indicated that there was something that was going to be done at the East Mesa, the East Mesa Park area that wasn't going to be covered by the GO bond money. So where does that money come from to complete, or why isn't it GO bond money?
So Mayor, Councilor Flores, with the original GO bond money, and when we began to get the cost coming into the project, the landscaping was value engineered out. So we did receive $3 million from the first tranche of the ARPA funding, and that is being put toward that landscaping for the East Mesa Sports Complex.
Oh, I see. And so did the ARPA money come in? Well, then that was a windfall.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you budget that? Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? So, Tony, I know this was the first time we used a consultant. I think we used them out of El Paso. That's been working out okay?
Mayor, yes, sir. He has been of ECM International, is the consultant we have on board, and they have been a great help to us, and they have actually went through RFP process, and they are the consulting managers for the transit facility also, for the federal funding.
And I'm just amazed of where we are now. I remember when we first did this, it was right at COVID, and you and your team just kept working through it, and here we are, almost finished, so congratulations.
My hair was down here.
Yeah, I know. That was a good job.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, it looks like you said quite a bit there, Kyle, but just kidding. So if there's nothing further, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Beta?
Second by Flores.
Motion made by Councilor Abeta, second by Councilor Flores, that we adjourn. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the work session. Councilor Abeta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Coran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, we're adjourned. It's 2:18 p.m. And we do have our agenda setting meeting, so if you're welcome to stay. Okay, this is the agenda setting meeting for our October 3rd, 2022 City Council meeting. Number 1, consent.
1 consent.
2, non-consent.
2 non-consent.
3, consent.
3 consent.
4, non-consent.
4 non-consent.
5, non-consent.
5 non-consent.
6, non-consent.
6 non-consent.
7, consent.
7 consent.
8, consent.
8 consent.
9, non-consent.
9 non-consent.
10, non-consent.
10 non-consent.
11, non-consent.
11 non-consent.
people walking above. Under the boardwalk. We'll be making love under the boardwalk. Boardwalk.